Hello everyone, this is Eflex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at OBLYVN song Planet Eternium. So if you haven't watched an APA video in the past, basically I have a basic structure where I do an intro, backstory section, then after that I have a breakdown analysis section, and then after that I have an outro section just summing up my thoughts. So this is OBLYVN song Planet Eternium, and this song is a drum and bass song off her EP. I can't remember the name at the moment, but I'll put it down in the comments later. But her most recent EP on Monstercat is probably my favorite EP that I've heard in a while on Monstercat. And OBLYVN in general is probably my favorite new artist to come onto Monstercat in a while. Nowadays, you know, listening to Monstercat, like artists, they have to be like super memorable, or they really have, like, the song has to really catch my attention within like a song or two, or within at least this first like 30 seconds. Otherwise I don't really remember the artist that well. Like, the song could be good, but I might not remember like who the artist name is. But OBLYVN, at least to me, is the only artist besides, I would think, like Bad Computer, that's like really stood out in terms of like more recent artists. But even Bad Computer's considered like a older artist now, so within the past like year or two, OBLYVN is probably the only artist that's really stood out to me in terms of all the new artists Monstercat's been adding. So I'm not as diehard where I remember all the artist names as I used to in the past, but Planet Eternium is basically a reminder of World Song by Design, and I hope to do an APA video for that song as well. But it's a very uplifting kind of happy drum and bass song, a lot of kind of glitching and vocal chopping, which is really cool for, you know, a drum and bass song. So I get the sense with this song it's like a mix of like Haywire and World, is what I saw someone in the comments say, which I agree perfectly with. This is like the best representation of if Haywire and World collabed on a drum and bass song, is basically what OBLYVN made. So I hope you guys like Planet Eternium. I think OBLYVN also has done short like breakdowns of like the lead and certain things and components within the song too, but this is just kind of like my own breakdown. So if there actually is a full-fledged breakdown video, I'll put in the description. But if not, I think there's short little snippets of how she made like the lead sound or something like that somewhere on her channel. So let's get into the song and let's get it started. All right, so that intro is actually not as traditional as some other ones. In terms of like spacing wise, it's a little more traditional in that way, but percussion wise, like there's no like percussion starting off the intro. But I just love how the song starts kind of like with a kind of almost vocal chop in itself, like you're like that kind of sounds like a vocal chopped vocal kind of processed into like more of like a longer chord almost, like, which is pretty interesting. And then there's kind of this background kind of key sound, which actually reminds me a lot of Porter Robinson's really reverb delayed pluck sound, almost piano sound that you hear play. So that kind of pairs well with the vocal, and then the kick kind of comes in to kind of build up, and then there's another vocal chop kind of on top of that thrown in there to kind of, you know, build the scene and the flow of the song. So I love kind of how glitchy that initial kind of vocal chopped vocoded kind of synth sound kind of is. Like, that's kind of the main driving sound of the song, and that's kind of what I love, how glitchy it is. So let's keep going.
Now, I want to get down to the simplest possible nitty-gritty.
All right, so that was a really cool and interesting drop. It kind of built up, and then there's like a big space where she kind of threw in a kind of a vocal sample from like an older, some of those kind of historical kind of vocal chops that some people use in songs. But there was like a pretty big gap. There's like kind of the pad plays out. And then the vocal chop comes in a little bit later. Like it doesn't come in initially; it comes in a little bit later. Then it kind of like fades out, and then the drop comes in. And it's pretty interesting. The drop is double time rhythm, so kind of kick snare, but you don't really hear any hi hats. And the kind of glitched out, kind of vocoded almost sound plays as the chord progression, and then the lead actually is kind of what they do in a lot of future bass trap music. I think they do this a lot in pop music now too, where they take kind of like the lead sound, like a vocal chop of like a lead, like maybe like a syllable, and then like kind of pitch that, kind of use that kind of as the lead. So let's say the ah syllable, and then they use the ah, and then kind of pitch that up and down and make a lead out of that. I know certain other EDM artists has done that, like 5 Hours by Dioro, I think his name is. But other pop songs I hear do it as well. It's a more traditional thing, like where you just take a syllable and then kind of stretch it out or do something to that vocal, process it a little bit, and then use that kind of as a lead. So that I noticed was the lead sound. And the percussion itself is interesting too, because there's not really any hi-hats. It sounds like a kick snare in double time, and then in the first part, and then it transitions, and then there's like a more high-end almost snare, but there's this kind of like kind of like this, I don't know what you would call like a high-end kind of arpish sound, acting kind of as the hi-hat, because I don't really hear a hi-hat in this section. So that's really interesting. That's the first time I think I've heard a drum and bass sound not solely focus on like a hi-hat, really, because I normally throw in hi-hats, maybe not like in the beginning of the drop of the drum and bass song, but then, you know, in the second part of the drop, halfway through I added hi-hats, but I didn't hear hi-hats at all. I kind of heard that arp sound in the same kind of frequency range as the hi-hats, acting kind of as the hi-hats kind of in that way. So it's very unique, very interesting. I never noticed that before. So let's keep going. All right, that part was really cool. You kind of hear after the first drop, kind of the almost gives me like Porter Robinson vibes, where you kind of hear that really reverb kind of piano-ish pluck in the background, and then the kick kind of comes in as the glitch kind of vocoded song plays the chord progression, and then the lead from OBLYVN comes in, and the percussion rhythm is more like, I guess you could say dubstep, but to me it reminds me more of like a trap rhythm. Like chill trap, almost like, whereas like a kick and like a snare, but the snare or clap is like really natural sounding. It's not like really synthetic sounding, so more organic, I guess you'd say. So it kind of reminded me like a chill trap section. But yeah, the lead kind of comes in there and is really prominent. I love how the lead kind of complements with those glitched vocoded vocals on the bottom playing the chord progression. And then after that, the lead kind of becomes, it fades out, but it's kind of the more prominent thing in this build-up. So let's keep going. All right, so kind of just in that break section, I just noticed that the lead plays as the glitch vocals are playing, and then it kind of switches into the vocal chop as the kick kind of comes in. Like the lead kind of switches into the vocal chop, into the build up, into this next drop. So there's also like a white noise sound kind of complementing this drop, kind of building up the tension. So just wanted to point that out. All right, so let's back up to that second drop. Man, there was a lot going on in that section. So that second drop reminds me a lot of like almost, I want to say almost like melodic dubstep, but it's more like, I guess, drum step, since it's like a higher BPM range. But it just kind of like is like more of a halftime, kind of more melodic, more saw waves going on. But I like how it kind of, the Vagoda vocals were paired kind of with saw waves, and it was a lot slower and a lot more melodic. So that kind of lead plays, the kind of spliced up vocal kind of main lead plays that you heard in like the first drop, but that also is paired with the lead that Oblivion introduced in the break section, so the more synthetic lead. And then within that section, as the kind of halftime rhythm kind of plays out, and you feel kind of more the euphoric feeling, you notice that like at least to me, the lead kind of calls and response with each other. Like the kind of lead vocal ish type synth thing kind of plays, and then the lead synthetic lead kind of answers as that happens. So that's really cool. I really like that drop. The percussion change was really nice. It made it really emphasize that drop a lot more, to be more melodic and have more almost weight to it. And then after that, it kind of transitions into the second part of the first drop, kind of the more drum and bass halftime, double time rhythm, kind of to outro the song. And then the way the song outros reminds me of a Porter Robinson song, with that kind of reverb delayed kind of pluck sound in the background going on. So overall, this is Oblivion's song Planet Eternium, and this song is definitely unique. Again, in that second drop, I don't know if I heard hi-hats, like at least maybe I can't hear it, but I heard that kind of ARP sound again, kind of filling in for the hi-hats in that double time drum and bass section. But just the overall use of the sounds is like really unique in the song. I've never heard a drum and bass song that was as short as 3:13, but shorter songs aren't always bad, especially for drum and bass. That kind of makes sense because the BPM is a lot faster, so things happen a lot faster. But just Oblivion sounds in general are amazing. The kind of Porter sound I never really noticed is really cool, that kind of pluck sound. The way she world build, or like the song just from the glitched vocals as the main sound going through, is really cool. That's really catchy, at least to me. The different variation in the percussion drops is like really good. The way in which she built up a lot of the drops, and like the way, like how entertaining the breaks were. Like no two parts are really the same, except for the maybe the second part of the last drop. That's like the only part I think is like the same or similar to another part of the song, but each part of the song is like different than each other part, which is really unique and really cool. The Oblivion sound itself is really good. That kind of lead using that vocal is really creative, and not using hi-hats in the percussion is really creative. That ARP sound, if she actually did do that, that's really creative. I've not heard that in a drum and bass song before. Not really heavily utilizing hi-hats, because I normally do that for drum and bass, so that's really unique. But overall, this song is really good. This is basically like the combination now, I would say, of Haywire, Porter Robinson, and World combined into like one drum and bass song, which is saying a lot. Like, it's really good. I love the glitchy vocals, love the leads, love that first part of the second drop. That's probably like my favorite part of this song. It's just like how the leads play back, how euphoric it felt, how heavy the weight was. How dramatic, I guess, kind of that drop feels. It just feels like, oh man, there's so much weight to it. So I plan to do a lot more APA videos on Oblivion songs, because she has a lot of live plays as well. So you get to see kind of like what you saw with Temanite's song Believe, a lot of the live recording. So I kind of can, react to that in a sense. But overall, I hope you guys like this APA video. Check out Oblivion's music. It's all on Monstercat. The whole EP's out. I'm currently still listening to it even now, even though it came out in 2021. Like, I'm still listening to it because each song on there is just pretty good. Even the transitionary songs aren't bad either. So the EP as a whole is really good. And like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you want to. I'm gonna try and grow this channel since my buddy Very Berry hit 1K. Kind of inspired me to try and hit 1K, so I'm trying to figure out how to do that, but as well as just kind of make videos for you guys to really see like what kind of music I like. It might not always agree with you in terms of like my taste versus your taste in music, but this is like my best way of sharing music with people without forcing them by sharing them different links of my music. Like, you actually get to hear me break it down and hear my perspective of what I think of all these songs. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video, and have a good one, and see you in the next video. Peace.